This podcast represents the opinions of the hosts of the Laugh Cry Club and guests on the show. The content here should not be taken as medical advice and is for informational purposes only. And because each person is so unique, please consult your healthcare professional for any medical questions. Views and opinions expressed in the podcast are our own and do not represent that of our places of work. While we make every effort to ensure that the information we share is accurate, we welcome any comments, suggestions, or correction of errors. Are we ready?
So, who's going to kick us off?
off?
Yeah, let's get this party started. All right.
Happy Halloween, everybody, from the Laugh Cry Club. When you listen to this, it'll be past Halloween, but we hope you had a wonderful, spooky spirit. I'm Joy.
I'm Rebecca.
And I'm Chelsea.
Hi, Laugh Cry Club. How is everybody doing?
Hey.
Party people. Rebecca has a wig on.
I'm in the spooky spirit now. I'm going to admit
What was
this.
the change? I feel like you're...
I think
Yeah,
it was
what
you.
was the change?
I think it was you two, and then our community of listeners. And I started posting all these like, I'm a curmudgeon, I don't like Halloween funny memes, and then I'm like, oh, I'm kind of in the spirit now. And then today I was listening to a whole Spotify
spooky playlist.
music playlist, so I'm in the spirit now.
Okay, can we just appreciate this? Members, you may not know this. There's a type of modality called acceptance and commitment therapy. And this type of therapy is geared towards individuals having behaviors that align with their values. And it sounds like what happened with Rebecca was an epiphany. All of a sudden, she was like, I actually am into the spooky spirit and Halloween. She reassessed her values. And now her wig, you can't see it, but it's purple and curly. It actually really accentuates her eyes. Look really great. The black frame glasses, I really think it looks fantastic. And now she has a behavior that's aligning. She committed to her value of the spooky spirit. This is amazing what this podcast is doing for individuals, changing lives.
It is changing mine.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. Well, I think we should, what do we have? We have a listener's question today.
We got our laughs and our cries. Can I do like a little plug for us too of like if there's any new listeners there's always going to be new listeners, but to just kind of reiterate what our podcast is about, that, if you're listening to the show, we really are taking topics every week that you are recommending, writing in and suggesting, or even asking us questions. And we will answer. We are 3 licensed therapists. We have over 20 years each of professional background in doing behavioral health and being therapists and helping people. So that is our expertise. Now, if you want to write in, you can write in a question or topic to laughcryclub@gmail.com. And we're on social media at all of those channels as well. So we start every episode with our laugh and our cry of the week, and then we kind of dive into our topic. So I just kind of wanted to recap that as we continue to grow to make sure people understand what they're listening to and why they're here. So we're glad you're here. It's like 3 licensed therapists in your ears. Hopefully that's helpful for you. Maybe you're like, I don't want to go to therapy. I just have Joy, Rebecca, and Chelsea. Now, of course, this does not replace professional personal advice, but I got to say, I think we're pretty helpful for people.
I've been hearing that we are extremely helpful to people. Like people love to hear our laughs and cries every week because I think it's relatable. Yeah. And I love it when our listeners, when I've tried to probe people to share their laugh and cries on Instagram and they've participated. So yeah, I think we're all in this club together. So let's keep doing this.
Let's do it. All right. Who are we nominating for the laugh and the cry of the week?
Well, Joy, you had 2 extra special weeks. And I really want to go out on a limb here and nominate
yourself.
Do it.
I was going to nominate Joy again.
I don't want to go first.
Do you want?
I want you to go.
You don't?
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to. Okay. So I'm going to start with my cry. My cry is actually, it's something that my sister posted on Instagram the other day, and I'm going to pull it up on my phone and I'm just going to read part of this. This was a big one for me. So I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I will read this. This is about her being pro-life for herself, pro-choice for everybody else, and how she held herself to a different standard. So she said, 3 times my fetuses disappeared in my body and didn't naturally abort, resulting in 3 abortions. 3 abortions in the hospital in a safe place where I didn't have to worry about my health and safety of my body and the doctors who were allowed to do their work. I didn't have to worry about where to go or what to do. The doctors were able to provide me with care. I was safe. I was able to grieve. I was able to process. So that part I remember going through with her, and it was just devastating for her and very traumatic. The second part of this, which she wrote, was, I often think about the first time I tested positive for pregnancy after being raped. I'm grateful that my body naturally aborted the pregnancy. Grateful that my trauma didn't result in a moral dilemma. Grateful that 18-year-old me didn't have to choose. So I will tear up about this. And I had a big cry thinking of my sister, this is her story, not mine, but she lost her virginity in the military, serving our military, being raped by another military member at 18 years old. And I can remember being 16. This is where it really flooded me. I could remember being in high school and her calling me and her going from this high of being in boot camp and being so proud of the work she was doing and telling me about this horrible thing that happened and really having to downplay it. And I remember holding her secret because she asked me to. And I held that secret until her traumatic response became so risky that I felt a need to disclose her secret. And then this thought continued to go into another thought, which, like attracts like. And in this, it was attracting lots of other thoughts. And I thought about the past 23 years I've spent working in the field of mental health and wellness, and my specialization being sexual trauma. I guess I thought about that specialization coming from myself having been sexually molested when I was a child, a one-time incident that happened when I was very young, and had never really thought about my sister's experience and put that together. I mean, I guess I had and I hadn't, but it made me think of the statistics of how many individuals will be assaulted, and 20% plus, I'm sure, of those being women. They say one in 4. And then for adults, I think it's like 1 in 6. And I think about how your body's not your own when you're assaulted. And then this additional risk of what can happen from that. And so I felt really emotional. I reposted this. I do not like to get involved in politics. I do not like to get involved with anybody's rights. Everybody's rights are their own. I have worked in this field, this niche of sexual trauma for many, many, many years. And I've heard so many complicated stories that come up with this. And it just really broke my heart how many people are silently out there suffering because of a trauma that's happened to their body. And I just want to say, I see you. And I hope other people can remember that next time we have big opinions about things that maybe we haven't experienced ourselves, or haven't had a daughter or a niece or a loved one who has had a violation happen to them that has resulted in these other things. And for every woman who has tried to conceive and has had to go through the god-awful processes that my sister had to go through because her body was unable to carry full term. So that is my cry.
Chelsea, it makes me think about your post. I want to say it was like in the last couple of weeks of like, if we could just look at every human as a child that had a trauma and has gone through really big things, how different we would treat one another. Our anger and our pain just doesn't come from nowhere. Like the sadness, the anger towards another person, the road rage, the whatever it is when you're dealing with people, it doesn't come out of nowhere. It comes from a lot of pain.
Yes. Thank you, Joy, for highlighting that. So that was my sad cry.
That is a very big cry, and amazing hugs to your sister for posting that and being brave to post that, because it is a time where we have to come out of the woodwork and share traumas like that because of the unfortunate situation of our political climate of rights over women's bodies. And, for whatever people believe, like you said, everyone can believe whatever they want to believe, but there's a reality of women really being at risk.
Impacted. Yeah. directly impacted, especially when we look. There's 3 of us on this video. If there was another person, it would be safe to say that one of us had been sexually assaulted and abused. And I forget what the statistics are with exactly rape. So, okay. So I'm going to take a breath. I'm going to come back and I'm going to share my laugh, which is a lot lighter. And gosh, isn't that amazing how we can shift when we think of funny things?
Yeah.
That is the parallel of life, right? The laugh cry club, like this heavy thing and then this light thing. So this light thing happened in this very room that you can see me in. This is my office / guest room, but there's no doors. There's only kind of curtains in it. And Steve had a medical procedure where they put radiation beads in his liver. And so he was radioactive. We weren't allowed to be around each other for 2 days. We had to socially distance. So we had to sleep in different beds. We had to like socially distance like you would during COVID because it's risky. Can't hold the pets, can't hug the kids, can't use the same restroom. So we had 48 hours of this. So I was sleeping in this guest room. And my daughter came in and she sat to talk to me. And we were talking about the differences between cat people and dog people. And I'm like, well, what do you think the personalities are like? And she says, well, you're a cat person. She's like, maybe cat people are really mellow. And I was dying. So if you know me,
it's
Mellow
not you.
Chelsea, no.
That's funny.
It's never been combined in the same sentence in my whole life. So then I looked at her and I said, really? Mellow is so nice. And she said, no, actually, it's more laid back. And then I was like, well, even laid back, I thought was very generous. And then she quantified it. You're laid back as a parent. Like you're easy going with us. So the next morning, Steve comes in to visit me for coffee during our social distant coffee
That has to
hour.
be so hard. Like, how much time are you allowed to be around him?
It was 48 hours that we had to be like 6 feet apart, and we're very affectionate. Like I probably kiss him 100 times a day. I'm like the person, and Joy, you've met me in person. Rebecca hasn't, but I'm like the person, like if you're sitting too far from me, I will pull you.
You're like, come here, get in here, you.
Yeah. I want to touch at all times. Like if you're a friend, like I will pull people in. I touch way too much. Like I will like sit on a friend's lap. Yeah, I love physical touch. So
hook them.
That was really hard. I will 100% hook them. If you have not seen the hook, you won't see it on TikTok. Oh, kids made me delete it.
SOL.
Okay, so Steve comes in, and the day before, I was telling him how my girlfriend, Natalie, if you're listening to this, she sends me Marcos. We've talked about Marcos. It's like video.
We've started a group Marco, by the way, for our listeners. Just so you know, the 3 of us group Marco every once in a while now.
Yes.
I think it's really good. So Natalie was Marcoing me, and she described herself. Okay, this is one of my best friends my whole entire life. We're like intertwined in our souls. She describes herself as the dark to my light. So she's saying this Marco, and how she describes herself in Marco is, and I'm just so bubbly. And I was like, no one in the history of your life has ever described you as bubbly. Like that's never happened. So Steve and I had already laughed about that. And so I'm telling him about how Charlie called me mellow. And his face, because Steve's mellow, his face is like yakking, like protesting, but he's pursing his lips together so the words won't come out because he doesn't maybe want to hurt my feelings. He might be feeling a little vulnerable after our social distancing. So then I looked at him and I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, I wouldn't use that word to describe you. I said, well, what about laid back? And he kind of pulled his face back a little bit and considered it. And then he said the same thing Charlie said. Well, I could see maybe as a parent. And he said, how about this? I'll get you a shirt that says mellow, and I'll get Natalie a shirt that says bubbly, and you can just wear them together. And I thought that was like the funniest thing ever. Like I thought it was so funny. So if you knew us, this would be even funnier. But this is how, I mean, yeah, I was really.
I just think about you pulling randos in to just hang out, you wearing a t-shirt that says mellow, like yelling out the window at people.
Right.
Oh, like Fortune Feimster.
Yes, like Fortune Feimster.
Yes. Fortune, come on our show.
Fortune, can you please come on our show? You might remember me from Mobile, the rando in a big white town car that stopped in the middle of traffic in the street and saw you walking and said, Fortune, I love you, in a really high-pitched voice.
And did she wave at you?
Okay. Yes, she did, because she's amazing.
She seems like such an amazing human. I love her.
Oh my
Okay,
God.
so all right. Well, that's a good high and low.
It is it was a lot. I'm going to pass it over to the one who's been so receptive to the therapeutic interventions on the show, Rebecca.
Our Halloween expert now.
I am really receptive to a lot of things. You know, like I always say in stores, like, what is that called when they do like the voiceovers and they make you buy things, or they used to, like, what's that called? Subliminal messages.
Oh, subliminal messages.
Like,
yeah.
I'm so susceptible to it. Like if somebody says something to me, I'm like into it.
Would you go into a cult? Is that you think like you're that susceptible?
I think I'm not that susceptible. I probably would be the cult leader, actually. Because I'm mellow. Because I'm so mellow.
And bubbly.
I'm not bubbly. That wouldn't describe me. But
Natalie describes herself. She says she relates to you, Rebecca.
Oh.
So that's it.
Because we're the dark energy.
You're the dark night of the soul.
We're the dark bubbles. She's probably going to be my sidekick in running this cult.
Does she drink Red Bull? Because maybe you both can pound some Red Bulls and then be bubbly.
She does
We're
not
pound some Red
Bulls.
Bulls. Yes. Oh, goodness. Okay. This is my second week without a cry. What is wrong with me? I'm starting to think
you want to take some of my
have some energy work done or something.
Oh my God, I'll give you some of my cries. Well, that's okay. You're living your best life, maybe.
I don't know that I feel like I am. I feel like I've got something repressed going. I need to go get some energy work or some sound healing or something.
Sure.
Like,
you would do
this out.
Hypnosis is what you need to be doing. You're open to subliminal messaging.
I can be hypnotized very quickly.
Really? I can do it for you.
That'd be awesome.
Hey,
okay.
We could do it on the show sometime.
Do you remember those? Okay, this is going to date me, of course, but we're all around the same age. But do you ever remember those shows at the fair where someone would hypnotize people from the audience? And they'd like call those people on the stage and then they'd hypnotize them for like an hour, and it was like a big show. I was on one of those shows, and to this day, it was like one of the most fun experiences of my life. And I went under like that, and I was hypnotized dancing around like Shania Twain, because Shania Twain was really big at that time.
I love that.
It's somewhere on VHS. I really don't think I have it, but I still think that was like one of the most fun experiences because it allows you to like let loose. And I was just like dancing in front of all these people and pretending like I had a microphone, and then they turn off the music, and then I just like sat down and I was like, where am I? Anyway, yeah.
That's awesome. I love it. I'd love to see
everything about
Yes.
that.
Okay. So hypnotism, Rebecca.
This is kind of a cry, kind of a cringe, actually. I went to vote, early vote this week, and this is about like men. I don't know why they do this, but there was this guy who's probably late 40s, and he was thanking the election worker. She was an older woman, probably in her 70s. And I thought, oh, that's really nice. He's like, yeah, thank you for your service and what you're doing, because it's all volunteer being an election worker or an official. And I thought, that's really nice. And then he said, what he also said is young lady. And Joy just is like rolling her eyes right now. He said young lady. And then she was like, what? Like she kind of sat back, and he's like, well, what? You're just like 30, right? And it's like, clearly she's a woman in her 70s. She's a mature woman that's been through some shit. And I'm just wanting to reach over and just punch him, because I'm like, that is just so creepy and rude. And I don't think she's really enjoying this. But so guys, don't do that.
Yeah, it's not.
If you're listening.
I mean, it is cringy. And also, please stop saying ladies. Hey, ladies.
Joy probably hates it when I say, hey, ladies.
You're only allowed to do that on Marco because I know you're kidding.
So anyway, I just like, why don't try to flirt with people that don't want to be flirted with, right? Like, it's just weird.
Well, I think it goes even deeper than that. And maybe I'm a little having a
We're
reaction to this, but
we can do this. Go ahead.
Okay. So let's not assume that everybody wants to be 30 again. Let's assume that it's okay that we're aging and we're 70 and we're getting to spend our retirement time being of service. Like when I'm 70, I don't need you to pretend like you're mistaking me for being so much younger. I don't know. I just think it's a weird way to connect. And I think that this individual, I would guess, is thinking he's being charming, but it's creepy.
It's like actually ageist, really. Because I mean, if you it's just don't do that. It's just, it was weird.
Or it's like when someone says you look good for your age. I'm like, what does that mean?
Yeah, I actually love it when people say that to me. They're like, "Oh, you don't look as old as you are."
Yeah, I look great for my age, and I really love that.
I'm not going to lie. Thanks. I take back everything I just said because it just reminded me. You know what? I'll save it for a laugh. I'll save it for my retroactive laugh when I go.
So my laugh has to do, we were sitting around over the weekend and I was saying these things about my dogs. You know how you talk to your animals a certain way. And so.
You mean like a dog voice? What's your dog voice?
Oh, hey, I don't know. That sounds like Mickey Mouse. Oh, hey, kids. I think I'm like, that was really good. You, cutie, my little
babies.
I don't know.
I have a very specific dog voice, yeah.
But we were laughing because I thought this is stuff like we started making lists of things you can say to your dog, but you can't say to your colleagues or your coworkers.
That's really.
And we were cracking up, like,
who's the baby?
Like, good potty. Do you want a treat? Or stop licking your ass. Like that's a good sit.
Oh my gosh, that's so great.
We just started
quiet
making a list of that's really funny. Things you cannot say to your coworkers, but you can say to your pets.
That's really good. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
I think it's even better because of your pink wig that you have on today.
Yeah.
I just realized I have a wig and I should have brought it. Okay. Anyway, am I going?
Well, we're going to pass not the wig because we don't have one, but we're going to pass the nominee to sweet, wonderful Joy.
Well, I guess everyone can tell that I'm on a different microphone today, which means that I am now in my house. Okay, so we moved in and it was something else. My cry came out of nowhere. Do you ever have like those cries where you're like, wow, I'm really emotional right now? I was very excited to move. So we closed a week ago, like just about a week ago from this recording. We moved, we got everything in. And then the next morning I was just so exhausted and I woke up and I was freaked out. Like, it just took me by surprise. Everything hit me all at once of like, what just happened? Where do I live? This is my house now. Like, this is my neighborhood. And I was so tired. We had no food in the house because our fridge hadn't arrived yet. And I told my husband, I was like, I'm going to go to Whole Foods and I'm going to get some food because I have to eat. I'm so hungry. And I also just like needed to get out of the house. So I start driving. And I take a wrong turn because of the like exit was really like it like snuck up on you. And I was like, damn it. And I just started crying because I was like, I don't live here. Like, you know, when you're on autopilot in your neighborhood and you just like know where everything is. And that just really hit me hard because, you know, thinking back when we moved out of the old house, we went straight to my parents' house. And I know that town like the back of my hand. It felt like an extended vacation. So all of a sudden being in this new house, in this new neighborhood that we really didn't like plan on living in, but you know, here we are and it's great and wonderful. But just that really hard pivot of like, okay, this is your reality now. It's over now. Like everything's moved in. And I thought I would be very excited. And so just the surprise of feeling sad was really hard. And I took a page from all of our playbooks here where I'm like, you know what? Just feel sad, let that go, let it move, let it, whatever. Got some food, went on with the week, and it got better. But that surprised me, and I cried a lot because I was also like, why are you sad? Like, this is what you wanted, you know? But, you know, sometimes your emotions have different plans for you.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to highlight that.
You've been through so many emotions.
Yes.
And sometimes your emotions have different plans for you. Put that in quotes, Joy.
Thank you.
That is so true. And sometimes we change our mind. Like sometimes something comes up and we change our mind and that happens.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's, you know, me as a person, I'm someone who kind of likes to, I don't want to say like plan ahead too far, but I just like to be prepared. I'm always like preparing myself for everything that's going to happen and be organized or whatever. So when that kind of like ambushed me, I was very taken aback, like I was off guard. And so I worked through it. I'm still working through it. I'm doing much better today. It just has taken a while to kind of like get into the groove of like, oh, this is my life now. This is my neighborhood now. I got to figure it out. And we do love it here. And Scott and I, my husband and I, have been talking so much about it of like, how it worked out for the better. And as cliche as that is, it really is true. So my laugh, it's funny because I didn't really have a specific laugh because this week has been hard, but I am going to retroactively tell you the laugh just because we were talking about it earlier with being told that like you look good for your age. About 2 years ago, and I love this story so much, it'll like make me smile every time. But about 2 years ago, I had a horrible case of vertigo. It was like the first time that ever happened to me. I think it was due to getting new contacts. Like I'd never worn contacts before. It's the only thing I can like attribute it to. I had contacts for like a month. And one morning I just woke up and I've never experienced this before, but if you've never had vertigo, it literally feels like you are on one of those like upside down carnival rides that is just twisting you in every which way. And you cannot find any balance whatsoever. And even laying down hurts. Like it just, it's like the worst hangover in the world. And then you put you in like a carnival ride. Like that's how it feels. So my husband had to call 911 because I could not get up to get in the car to go to the emergency room. So he calls. So there's two parts. Okay. There's two. Part one is when the firefighters walked in because I was laid out on the bed. The first thing I say to the firefighters was, "Oh my God, you guys are so cute."
I mean, firefighters are
no,
cute.
But there were like 6 of them coming at me, and I was like, ah, and the only thing I could say in my stupor of dizziness was, "Oh my God, you guys are so cute. I'm so sorry. Like, I'm so sorry you had to come like here, So we're in the, I was in the ER. This is where I like kind of joked that like this turned out to be like one of the best days because like I had these firefighters rescue me, and then they were like complimenting our house, which made me feel good. And I was like, wow, they're being so nice to me. And when I get to the ER, I'm being wheeled in to get an MRI because they were worried about something going on in my brain. The guys that pulled me into the MRI, like the nurses, were like, "Whoa, is this who you are?" Because they get your chart before you come in, right? And it's like 46-year-old woman or 45 at the time. And they're like, "Wait, you're not this person, are you?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Wow, you look really good for your age." And I was like, "Thank you," as I'm like sitting on a hospital bed. Oh my God. So it turned out to be a funny day of like me like just professing my love for the firefighters, and then also like having these cute little male nurses be like, "You look really good for your age." And I was like, "Thank you so much." Okay. So life is a highway, you guys. Life is a highway.
It is a highway. You know all about riding that or driving that highway all night
sure
long.
do.
You do. You've been through it.
Okay, should we pivot and talk about our topic of the week? All right, so we had, this is a listener question. If you're listening to this podcast and you're like, "Hey, I would like 3 licensed therapists with years and years of experience to talk about this topic," you can email us at laughcryclub@gmail.com. You can send us a voice memo to that email. You can write us on Instagram. We're at laughcryclub. We're on all the socials, so you just feel free to reach us there. So this week, the question is, and I love this question because so many people can relate, any advice on how to get a spouse to go to marriage counseling? My spouse had a bad therapy experience, probably it sounds like when this spouse was younger and their parents got a divorce. And now this spouse doesn't want to go to therapy. They think it's going to make things worse. And the spouse is opting to maybe leave the marriage. So this question comes up a lot when I'm doing therapy with individuals. And I'd be curious to hear what you and you, Chelsea, and Rebecca think as far as how people work through this. But just kind of like right off the cuff is when people talk about, well, I really want to get my spouse into therapy, it's kind of figuring out, really why you want your spouse to go to therapy. Because number one, you can't get anyone to change. So if they're really against it and they're not going to do it, it's not always looking good that they're going to go to therapy. Therapy isn't the only option to work on your relationship, but I'm going to just kind of kick us off there and see what you guys think.
So is the question what do we do when we have a spouse and we want them to go to therapy, but they don't want to go?
Yeah.
I mean, this comes up all the time, all the time. I've seen it. I've seen people break up over this. I've seen people do other ways. Like there's books. In fact, I just had this the other day where I recommended a book.
Like, what if you are, say, a parent and you're like, we need some family therapy, and you have 3 kids, and how do you wrangle all these people into family therapy? That's a lot of personalities to get in one spot too.
I mean, it's hard because there's such an aversion, I think, sometimes to going to therapy. And if you've had a bad experience, we have to keep remembering that the brain is wired to remember those bad experiences in a very vivid way. And so, of course, if you've had a bad experience, this is going to make it harder than as an adult to say like, oh, I really want to go to therapy. You know, most people are not going to want to if they had a bad experience. You know, I would say there's other things that you can do. There's lots of books. The Gottmans are somebody who I really recommend. Gottman. They are a couple who have been doing couples therapy for like 50 years. They're evidence-based. They're amazing. They have a website that has all of these things on it. But I would say if you're family member, your partner, your child doesn't want to go to therapy and you really want them to go, that to me says that you should go to therapy. I don't like to use the word should, but it would be beneficial for you to have somebody to process this with, because it sounds like there's some help needed in the relationship. And how can you support yourself? And how can you make some changes to change the dynamic? So fun fact, if one person changes in a dynamic, then the other person is kind of forced to make some movement. Now, that movement can be positive or negative, but it does break up the dynamic. And I've seen this in family therapy. One person, the identified patient comes in, they're the problem, and then everybody else ends up doing the work too, because relationships are a dynamic.
You know, one thing, I just had a thought when you were talking about that, and I don't want to trivialize this at all, but think of it like a restaurant. If you go to a restaurant, we've all had a bad experience at a restaurant, right? I think we can all relate. Have you ever gone back or tried it again?
Oh, heck no.
Because maybe the management shifted?
Well, I had food poisoning and I'm like, I'm never going back.
Okay, well, we're not talking food poisoning.
I thought of food poisoning and I was like, yeah, I'd never been back. Red Robin.
Like, let's see, I have a restaurant really close to my house. It's convenient. And I'm talking maybe the bad experience was with the waiter or something. Maybe not the food. Yeah. Right? So I would probably go back and give it a try again. But and what if my partner or spouse didn't want to go, but I wanted to? Well, I could go myself to the restaurant and eat the food I want, which is I could go to therapy by myself, maybe start setting the example for being a healthy person. And maybe they'll eventually want to go once I share my experiences with them. But also that the wait staff or the kitchen changes all the time. So there's going to be a different person. So it may be the same restaurant, the same type of therapy, but the players change. So there's always there's an option for growth because you're going to get a different therapist. It's like, so you could have a really terrible therapeutic experience. And I understand that. And that's something that you could even address with a new therapist. Like, hey, when you go in to see this new therapist, like, I had a really bad experience and I don't think I really want to be here. And give the therapist the opportunity to talk that through with you and how that you all could make that work. I would also say for the person that's trying to get this person into therapy or to go back to the restaurant, I'm going to set my intentions and I'm going to share what I'm hoping and wanting to happen. So I'm going to say, hey, can we go try that again? I know we had that experience, or you had that experience. It wasn't so great, but I am finding that we are really struggling. Like we're not communicating. I feel it from you too. We've talked about it. Could we potentially work towards going to see a therapist and then allow that person some space and time to think about it? But I think you have to set the intention and ask for what you're wanting and be clear about it.
That's a really good point. No two people in a partnership are ever going to be in the same spot all the time. So someone who's saying, I always think about this, remember in like supervision and my training is when one person speaks up about a problem, you have a problem. So it's not like I speak up and it's my problem. I speak up and it's our problem. If we're talking about a relationship. So let's say the partner doesn't want to go. I think it is great for one person to go and talk through it with the therapist and say, here's what I'm worried about, and maybe getting tools to work on it yourself because, hey, I want to be my best self for this relationship. So I'm going to do what I can to check out my blind spots, see what I can do for this relationship. It's not easy to do couples therapy with one person, obviously, but at least if you're talking to a therapist who maybe does specialize in relationships, then you're going to get a lot out of that therapy session and talking through some things. The other thing that comes up when I'm talking about this with people who want like their spouse to come to therapy is they typically want their partner to change in some way. And I always think about this quote I heard forever ago. It's like, you change so I can be happy. And that's just not how things go, So you have to be very careful because if you're unhappy, you have to be the navigator of that origin of unhappiness. Your partner changing. Now, I'm not saying like, look, if you do things together and like work on some things that you both agree on that you're like, hey, could you help with the dishes? Or can you do this? Or let's learn our love languages. I'm not saying that, but just kind of saying, I just wish that they would be a different person. Or I wish that, I think there's something really deep rooted when people start saying like, if only they could change, I would be happy. Well, it's like it takes two to tango. So you really have to look at both parts in the relationship.
I would say, I think I mentioned this last time, that two people are the co-creators of the relationship.
Yes. You made a great video about that.
Yes.
I also think that people get worried. I've seen this in therapy as well with clients where they want to bring their partner in to therapy sessions, but the partner's really intimidated because they're like, well, the therapist is obviously going to be on, quote, I'm using air quotes, your side. And I just want to be very clear as therapists, we don't take sides. We cannot take sides. That would be very unethical. We are a neutral space, a neutral ground. So it helps us when the other partner comes in because then we can hear everyone's input. So when we only have one side of the story, so to speak, to be working with, it really limits what advice we can give. So it's always a benefit when the other partner comes in. Now, if that's really hard for a client or a client's partner, let's say, I would say, well, go see a different couples therapist that maybe you've both never met. So then it's just everyone, it's brand new to both of you. So those are kind of some things that I think about that might be helpful. I will say one last thing too. Sometimes that resistance means the person doesn't want to work on it and they're afraid to say it and they just can't be direct. Let's hope that's not the case. But every time I even start couples therapy, one of the first things I ask is, are you both really invested in making this work? That might sound like such a silly question, but you kind of have to get them to start thinking about that, whether or not they're really totally honest with you in that first session doesn't matter. It's just that they really need to think about why they're there and kind of plant the seed of like, do I really want to work on this? Or am I just kind of going through the motions?
I do think, kind of going backwards a little bit, the beauty of seeking therapy when you're an adult rather than being forced when you're a child is that you are equipped to ask questions, see if it's going to be a good fit for you. If you don't like the therapist, that can be a really bonding experience. My husband and I had a therapist we couldn't stand for couples therapy. It opened up our communication because we were forced. It was like, we're going to keep paying this guy, or we're going to start doing some of the work that we needed to do and have these very uncomfortable conversations until we got into a therapist who was actually really amazing and life-changing for us. But you do have free will, and you have free will to decide whether you are willing to be uncomfortable because this matters for your partner. And we've all got stuff to work on. And so even if you're coming in because you're the one who did the thing, or you're the one who's the workaholic, or you're the one who had the affair, or you're the one, unless there's pathology, meaning you have a personality thing going on and you just don't have any remorse and that's your thing. Most people are like, I see my spouse and I want us to make this work. And it's when needs aren't being met over and over and over and over again is where I've seen a lot of people show up for therapy, where I get that desperate call and I'm like, why now? And it's like, oh, well, she's asked me for 10 years, and now she left. And it's like, okay, well, now we're too late. So early intervention is I really recommend tune-ups and early intervention if possible. And I will say there's going to be times where a loved one in your life doesn't want to go. I had it after my husband was diagnosed with cancer. My daughter wanted to go to therapy. She knew she needed it. My son didn't. My negotiation was, okay, if you don't want to go, that's okay, but we need to go for walks and we need to be talking. and you need to be crying when you're sad and having your feelings. And if I notice that you're shutting down, then I'm going to ask you again, and we're going to need to reevaluate this. Now that's a parent to a child, so it's different. With adults, they have free will, and that's really hard.
It makes me really sad when marriages dissolve, because maybe they were going to dissolve anyway. But when somebody has really just wanted that spouse to go to therapy to try to just openly talk about it and even just see if this is the right relationship. So I have worked with several clients. They've come in for individual therapy, and that's been kind of the thing they've talked about, how they want, like, they have a problem in their marriage and they want to make it better, but they're like, nope, they're never going to go. And we talk about, how can you talk about this with your spouse or your partner to try to let them know how important this is to you. And still, sometimes they engage with the partner and they say, absolutely not, I'm not going to go. And it's really sad, because you are both in this relationship together, but one person's kind of doing the stonewalling of, I'm not going to go. And as therapists, we can probably predict why this is happening, right? That they are having fear, or they've had a bad past history with therapy or whatnot. But you've been married for so long, maybe 20 years in some cases, and you have kids maybe. And isn't this relationship worth it to get uncomfortable and just see, like, is this happening? You know, should we be together or should we not? I feel like that just makes me sad when people absolutely flat out refuse to go. And then it leaves their spouse with them giving an ultimatum sometimes, which we all know isn't the best. But sometimes you've reached the end where you've tried everything else and you're begging and pleading because at that point, you're actively trying to save this relationship, right? And you're getting stonewalled, the brick wall, by somebody else. And so you have to decide, what are you going to do? And sometimes the ultimatum's like, if you don't do this, this relationship's over. Sometimes I think that's almost kind of a little bit too late time period too, because you're already like having feelings like, I can't even be with this person because they didn't.
You feel resentful.
You start to resent them because, like, this person didn't love me or value or cherish our relationship enough to do this for me. I know they didn't want to, but sometimes we have to do things for the people that we're with.
And it's so different with each couple, which is why couples therapists and therapists are so great, because there's not a one size fits all approach. There may be a fracture in a marriage where someone may say, well, that's a deal breaker for me. I'm not going to stay for something that happened like A, B, or C. Versus another couple could be like, yeah, we're going to work through this. I mean, and that's the wonderful complication of being a human, is everyone kind of brings that different dynamic and different personalities and the things that they're willing to work on and not work on. The thing with couples and relationships, I mean, relationships are so hard. But they make you grow the most. And if I said this the other day to someone in therapy, I was like, this is your mission if you choose to accept it. This partnership that you have, because they're in a great relationship and they are really kind of digging into some things that are hard for them. So this is an appropriate way of like using this. I'm not saying if you're in a bad situation that's like toxic, obviously, but like, this is not an easy journey to like dive. I mean, every single person that's married could be like, yeah, it's a lot of work at times. And it's also really great at times. It's a lot of laughs, but it's also a lot of cries. It's like, will you accept this mission? Like you're actually going to work through a lot of stuff, but you've kind of been assigned this journey with this person to work through your childhood trauma of whatever relationships you had that really made this difficult to get close to this person. So if you kind of opt into that, a lot of really good work can happen. But I think people are so afraid, and understandably so, at how much you have to kind of unearth and work through to get to the other side of it.
I do want to call out one thing that I think is important. Even if you're done with the relationship, I've had this several times when I used to work with couples, people who were done, like it wasn't going to work. They outgrew one another. Their values were different than they were when they first met. Things have changed, and you can do a really beautiful process of splitting up the marriage and uncoupling in a way that isn't destroying one another. And so that would be another thing that I would say, like, even if you're the person who's resistant to go because you're like, I'm done, we don't have to sabotage. And I've had this lots of times where people are like, I just blow it up and then I'm done. And I'm like, but now, like, you don't have to do it that way. You can still love your partner and not be their partner. You can still care deeply for that individual and not be together with them. But when we're getting to that point where it's really toxic, that's also an opportunity to say, hey, I'm going to be really vulnerable. And I'm going to, when that therapist asks the question, like Joy said, are you both on the same page of wanting to be together? No, I'm not. And how do we do this in a way that doesn't create more anguish for all parties who are involved? So I do want to call that out. If you do make it, even if you're deciding you're done with this relationship, there can be value in this.
Yeah. So you're saying, Chelsea, that say me and spouse have decided this is not working. So we could still come into therapy and have some sessions on how we uncouple in a safe manner that's loving towards each other.
Yes. Or you could be one of the spouses who says, I still want to be in this. And I'm the other spouse and I'm like, I'm out. And you have a therapist there to help you work through those things, knowing that the intention is not to reconcile and knowing that the intention is to hold space for the pain of the hopes and dreams of what we wanted to happen that didn't happen.
Yeah. I feel like when there's children involved, that is imperative. I really wish everybody that is going through a separation or divorce that have children, that they would go through some type of uncoupling therapy. I actually worked at a place where the court, when people decided they wanted to get a divorce, they said, look, in order for us to finalize this divorce, you're going to have to go to this divorce parenting, co-parenting class. So that for the sake of the children. So
it's like, do you want to hang on to the resentment and pain and make everyone else suffer around you and your family members? Or can you like work on it to where it doesn't impact your children? Yeah. Lastly, I'm going to recommend, if you have never been in therapy, or maybe your partner just is like, I don't really understand what this is all about. There's this show on Showtime, and actually it might be like floating around on different apps because that's how the internet works these days. But it's called Couples Therapy with Dr. Orna. Do not confuse it with Couples Therapy with Dr. Jen Berman, which is more of like a celebrity reality show. We don't need to see like celebrities doing couples therapy. I mean, sure, fine, whatever. But couples therapy is with Dr. Orna is real life human beings, normal human beings in New York City. And she has the most amazing practice that, like, as a therapist watching this, I was like, wow, I learned so much. But even just as a human being who's maybe interested in therapy, just to kind of see what happens in a couples therapy session. So you can maybe see it's like, oh, that doesn't look so scary. Like you're just kind of talking through some things together. So that's kind of a little plug. And what Chelsea said earlier with the Gottmans, if you go to, I believe it's Gottman. It's Gottman.com is their website. They have really good resources on there. They have a really cool app. I can't remember the name of the app, but if you just type in Gottman in your apps, it has a really good free version of the app to kind of like work on certain things in your marriage. And they have a cute little podcast called Small Things Often, which I really love. It's like 5 minutes a day of things that you can do to improve your relationship. So maybe you're not super ready, or maybe you're struggling. Maybe that's kind of a nice little way to give your partner something to, hey, I know therapy might be not your thing right now. Can we at least start with this 5-minute podcast a day? Can we both agree to listen to that? You know, that's something that I will recommend at times too. But wrapping up, is there anything else that we missed, or do we want to talk about our teaser for next week?
I just wanted to throw this out that if therapy is too big, there is another avenue called coaching. And these people, there can be highly trained coaches in doing couple work. And sometimes that might be less scary for people. So that's another option.
It is, because the difference is coaching is present and forward. So we're not digging into the past. We're not digging into all the pain. You're looking at the present. This is what's going on. This is where I want to improve. And then you're taking those behavioral steps. Rebecca, thank you for sharing that, because coaching, if you get with a good coach that went through certified training, lots of them have therapy backgrounds, that can be life-changing as well. I love coaching. I think it's great. So this was so fun as always. Joy, what do we have next week?
Well, Rebecca's going to take it away.
Yes. So for next week, we have a listener's question because the holidays are coming up, right?
Right around the corner.
So, yes. So spending time with over the holidays with the family and some of those dynamics that can come up, because I think we all experience them. And then possibly some of the political pitfalls that might come up around these holidays as well. Because some of us we see our family a lot, some of us maybe not, and we're going to be rejoining them. A lot of personalities, a lot of different dynamics happening.
A lot of different opinions.
And it can be a lot of stress. Yeah. It can be very stressful. Yeah, we're going to talk about that next week.
Well, that's wonderful. It's the perfect time of year to revisit the video. If you've never seen the Adele skit on SNL where she sings Hello, well, they do a spoof on Hello from the Other Side. Please Google that, because it really lightens the mood about being at the dinner table with family and political disagreements coming up. So just watch that video, Google SNL Adele spoof, whatever, and you'll
Hello from the Other Side.
It's great. And it's
Hello from the Other
it's so
Side.
It was probably made 8 or 9 years ago, and every single year I post it on Facebook to be reminder, and especially because this is an election year. So as when this episode drops, election day will be the next day. So our next episode is really going to kind of talk about how to manage political stress and family dynamics around the holidays, because that's just this time of year. So
we got to start preparing.
We really do.
Yes, lots of coping skills, lots of practical tips and
deep
tricks.
breaths. We are here for you.
We got to gear up.
So if you are someone who experiences that, and you know friends who experience that over the holidays, send them this episode or send them our podcast. Leave a 5-star rating and review if you liked this episode, or if you liked this podcast. We would love to hear your feedback. All positive, please, because we just that's where our brains are at. That's what we can manage.
That's where we're at. That's all we can manage. Positive stuff.
Thank you so much for supporting us. You can again email us laughcryclub@gmail.com and find us at laughcryclub on all the socials. We appreciate your support, and until next time, have fun in the club.
See you then.
Bye.
All right. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
That's life, baby.